All right, today we're going to tackle a concept called network embeddedness. Now I know, it sounds super academic, but I promise you, this is one of those ideas that once you get it, it completely changes how you see the business world. So let's dive in.
We all have this image of companies as these solitary islands, right? Fighting for survival all on their own. But this simple quote, which has been around for a while, tells us that's just not true. It's a myth. The reality is so much more connected and honestly, way more interesting.
So here's our game plan for today. We're going to start with that no company is an island idea, figure out what a business network actually is, and then look at two totally different ways of seeing that network. After that, we'll get into the main course, embeddedness, and see why the old line between local and global business is basically gone. And we'll wrap it all up with a new way for you to look at your own professional world.
Okay, let's get right into it. Section 1. No company is an island. This is really the foundation for everything else we're going to talk about. The simple truth is that companies just don't exist in a vacuum. They have to interact with others, whether they like it or not.
I mean, just think about it for a second. Any company you can name is constantly dealing with a whole cast of characters. Its suppliers, its customers, but also its competitors, and even the government. Every one of those interactions builds a relationship over time. And when you zoom out, you realize it's not just a bunch of one-on-one deals. It's this massive, tangled web. And here's the kicker. A company's success is completely tied up, interrelated, with everyone else in that web.
So, if companies all exist inside these networks, what exactly is a business network? Let's get a really solid definition so we're all on the same page.
Okay, this definition looks a little dense, but it's actually perfect. Let's pull it apart. Repetitive transactions. That means we're not talking about one-off purchases. This is about ongoing stuff. Structural and relational formations. That just means these networks have a shape and they're built on, well, relationships. And my favorite part, dynamic boundaries. This is so key. It's not some exclusive club with a fixed guest list. It's a living, breathing system of people and resources that's always changing.
Now, here is where it gets really, really interesting. Because when you talk to experts, you find there are two completely different ways of seeing how these business networks actually work. This is like the central debate in the whole field.
And this visual just nails the difference. On the left, you've got the emergent web. It's messy, it's organic, it's kind of chaotic, with no obvious center. It just happens. But on the right, you see the designed web. It's so clean, right? It's orderly. You can tell it was built by someone, with a major player right there in the middle.
This table breaks it down even further. The emergent view says networks just evolve naturally over time from thousands of little interactions. The edges are fuzzy and nobody is really in charge. But the designed view, it's the total opposite. It says these networks are created on purpose by a big flagship company. The membership is clear, the boundaries are sharp, and that main company is calling all the shots. These are two completely different ways of seeing the world.
So all of that leads us right here, to the main event, embeddedness. This is the big idea that ties it all together. Because what it argues is that just being in a network isn't what's important. What really matters is the quality and the nature of your connections.
And this is the classic definition from the sociologist Mark Grenefetter. Now, notice what it says. It's not about market forces or corporate strategy. It's about interpersonal relationships. At its heart, embeddedness is a human idea. It says that the business and economic choices we make are shaped deeply by the social connections between actual people.
The research kind of breaks this down into 3 layers. First up, you have social embeddedness. That's all about the personal trust and relationships between individuals. Then you have the more formal business-to-business links, the inter-organizational stuff. And finally, there's territorial embeddedness, which is just a fancy way of saying that where you are physically located still really matters. And all 3 of these layers are working at the same time.
And this is so important. Embeddedness isn't like a light switch. It's not just on or off. It's a spectrum. Way over on one end, you have those simple, one-time arm's-length transactions, like buying paper clips online. But on the other end of the spectrum, you have these deeply integrated partnerships that have been built on years and years of trust and collaboration. And where your company's relationships sit on that spectrum, well, that defines everything.
Okay, so you might be thinking, cool theory, but so what? Why does this matter in the real world? Well, here's why. Because this way of thinking completely shatters the old, outdated idea of domestic versus international business. Which brings us to this question, a pretty big one. If you really look at the world to this lens of network embeddedness, you have to ask yourself, does the idea of a purely domestic company even make sense anymore? And Boom! There's the answer, right from the source material. A network doesn't stop at a border crossing. The web of relationships, your suppliers, your partners, your manager's old college roommate, it just flows right across national boundaries like they're not even there.
And you see this happening everywhere. Foreign companies are setting up shop right in your local market. That local supplier you love? Turns out they're owned by a huge multinational. Your boss's most trusted contact is based in another country. You might even be an international company, just because you buy parts from overseas, even if all your customers are right down the street. The lines are just gone.
All right, so let's bring it all home. What we've really been doing here is building a brand new lens, a new way for you to see the world of business. If you only remember one thing from our time together today, make it this. The world isn't a bunch of separate islands. It's one massive, interconnected web. And our success, our failures, our opportunities, they are all defined by our place within that web of relationships.
And that leaves us with one last question. And this one's for you to think about. If no business is an island, what does your personal network, your archipelago, look like? Who are you connected to? And who are they connected to? Because understanding that, that's the first step to navigating this incredibly interconnected world.